The coffee she handed him was cold, but her kindness was hot enough to burn through the layers of his grief. He looked homeless hell. He smelled worse, but what she didn't know was that the man she helped had enough money to buy the street they were standing on. Jasmine Brooks didn't plan to be on Canal Street that night. Her usual route from the burger joint to the tiny apartment she shared with her grandmother never took her down this block. But the streetcar had stalled, her phone was dead, and after a 12-hour shift of deep fryers and drive-through orders barked through static speakers, her feet decided to walk the long way home. Maybe they knew something she didn't. She saw him slouched on a bench, head bowed, fingers twitching. A filthy navy suit hung from his shoulders like regret. No one else even glanced his way. That's New Orleans at night: music, neon, shadows, and silence for those who fall through the cracks. Jasmine paused, clutching her backpack. It was almost midnight. She had no business stopping, but something in a man's posture, something broken but not yet fully shattered, made her step forward. "Hey," she said gently. "You okay?" The man grunted. "Leave me." She didn't. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out the coffee she hadn't finished during her 10-minute break. "Here. It's not fresh, but it's warm." A lie. It had cooled hours ago. He looked up. Bloodshot blue eyes blinked at her. There was something aristocratic about his features, despite the grime. A beard that had grown too wild. Skin too pale for a city that sweated you clean. Hands trembling like they remembered softer lives. "What's your name?" he asked, voice hoarse. "Jasmine." "You." He chuckled dryly. "Nobody." She smiled. "Okay, nobody. You wanted to call someone." "No one to call," he muttered, taking the coffee with shaking hands. She sat on the edge of the bench, just out of reach. "Then I'll sit with you a minute. My grandma says nobody should be alone when they're crying, drunk, or dying. I might be all three." Her chest tightened, but she forced a laugh. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. He sipped the coffee, winced. "This is awful." "Yeah, but I gave it to you with love, so it cancels out." Silence stretched between them. A saxophone wailed somewhere in the distance. Jasmine's shift badge, still clipped to her apron, caught a bit of the streetlight. She hadn't eaten. She didn't care. "Tell me a story," she said. The man looked startled. "What kind of story?" "Any kind. I served burgers and dodged 2 creeps tonight. I deserve a story." He sighed. "I once had a daughter. 5 years old. Hair like fire, eyes like storms. She disappeared. I don't know if she was taken or wandered or—" He trailed off. Jasmine leaned forward. "What happened?" "I left her with someone. Trusted them. I was busy. Too busy. When I came back, she was gone." He rubbed his hands over his face, voice unraveling. "They said they'd search. Spare no expense. But years pass, and you realize money doesn't buy the past. Or guilt. Or mercy." Jasmine's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." "Are you?" His eyes snapped to hers. "You don't even know me." She didn't flinch. "Don't need to. I know hurt when I see it." He blinked again, slower this time, as if her words broke through the fog. She stood, adjusting her backpack. "Listen, nobody. You'll freeze out here. There's a shelter 2 blocks east. I can walk you there." He hesitated, then nodded. They walked together in silence, streetlights flickering above them like ghosts. When they reached the shelter, she handed him her last protein bar. "You need this more than me." He looked at it, then her. "You don't know what you just did." She grinned. "Gave a snack to a sad man? Pretty sure that's not Nobel-worthy." He shook his head slowly. "You'll see." The shelter staff welcomed him with surprise. Apparently, he wasn't unknown there, just unseen for a long time. As they led him inside, he turned once more. "Jasmine Brooks," he said, eyes clearer now. "Remember that name." She laughed, waving him off. "Sure thing, nobody." The next morning, the entire city was buzzing. Missing billionaire Nathaniel Lark found on city streets. Mystery girl identified as Good Samaritan. Reward offered for kindness. Jasmine nearly dropped her breakfast when her grandmother burst into the kitchen, phone in hand, eyes wide. "Girl, you on the news?" "What?" Her grandma turned up the volume. The reporter's voice echoed. A local teen, Jasmine Brooks, unknowingly helped Nathaniel Lark, missing for over 6 months, last seen after withdrawing from public life following the tragic disappearance of his daughter. Jasmine froze. Her stomach sank. She'd helped him? Suddenly, cameras lined the sidewalk outside their apartment. News vans. People shouting her name. She ducked back inside. "This is too much." Her grandma nodded. "Too much or not, baby, you did right. And now the world's watching." But not everyone was happy. Online forums asked why she was being praised. "She was just doing her job," one commenter wrote. "Probably just wanted reward money," said another. And then it started. Old yearbook photos. Her school attendance record. Her family's eviction notice from 2 years ago. Suddenly, her background mattered more than her actions. The headlines shifted. Jasmine Brooks, hero or hustler? Teen good deeds sparked questions about city's priorities. She didn't care about the money. She never asked for the attention. But now, she couldn't escape it. And then Nathaniel Lark appeared again. He requested a live interview. And he mentioned her name. What Jasmine did wasn't just kindness, he said, voice steady on national television. It was grace. In a world that looked through me, she saw me. Not my name, not my money, me. He paused. I intend to honor that. Not just with gratitude, but with change. The screen flashed. Lark Foundation announces $10 million scholarship fund in Jasmine Brooks' name. Jasmine stared, stunned. Her grandma wept. But Jasmine's face didn't light up. Not yet. She looked out the window, thinking of all the people like Nathaniel no one ever saw because they didn't have money, because they weren't white, because they were too broken or too brown or too tired. This wasn't the end. It was just the start. The hallway of Jasmine's school was louder than usual the next morning. She walked in, hood up, backpack heavy, earbuds in, but it didn't matter. Whispers sliced through the air like knives. "She's the girl from the news. Isn't that the one who helped that rich white dude? She probably staged it. She's trying to be a celebrity or something." She kept walking. Her body moved forward, but her soul felt like it was dragging behind. Every glance felt like judgment. Every whisper, a punch in the ribs. It hadn't even been 24 hours. She slid into her first period English class, eyes down. Her teacher, Mr. Wallace, gave her a tight-lipped nod, sympathy maybe, or discomfort. She couldn't tell anymore. When class ended, she was the last to leave. Mr. Wallace called her name. "Jasmine." She stopped. "You okay?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I'm fine." But the lie was too thin. He didn't push, just handed her a folded piece of paper. "A few colleges reached out already. I thought you might want to see this." She stared at the letterhead, Dillard University. Full tuition offer, room and board. A handwritten note at the bottom. "We'd be honored to have someone with your heart and integrity on our campus." Her fingers trembled. Her grades were good, but not Ivy League material. She'd assumed community college, night classes, work until she couldn't move. And now she didn't know what to think. As she walked home that afternoon, her phone buzzed again and again. Unknown numbers, news agencies, bloggers, social media influencers. They all wanted the same thing. Her face, her voice, her story. She ignored them. But when she got home, her grandma was waiting with a look she hadn't worn in years, one Jasmine only saw when rent was due and groceries were low. "There's a man waiting downstairs," her grandma said. Said his name's Lark. Jasmine's heart skipped. She found him in their building's small, broken courtyard. The same crumpled suit, but now it was pressed. A clean shave. Shoes that looked like they cost more than her yearly wages. But his eyes were the same, tired, deep, and brimming with something heavier than sadness. "Hi," he said softly. She sat on the edge of the planter, unsure of what to say. "I owe you a proper thank you," he said, "and an apology." "For what?" "For dragging you into the circus." She shrugged. "You didn't. The world did." He nodded, looking away. "I spent 6 months trying to disappear. And in one night, you made me want to be seen again." She wasn't used to people saying things like that. Most folks just told her to smile more. He reached into his coat, pulled out an envelope. "This isn't charity. It's not guilt. It's acknowledgement." She opened it. $10,000. A check. Her hands tightened around it. "I don't want your money." "I know," he said. "But take it. Use it. Or burn it. It's yours, Jasmine." She looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she saw the father behind the billionaire. The grief hiding behind the wealth. The man who had fallen and somehow gotten back up again. She nodded once, then handed the check back. "I'll take something else," she said. His brow lifted. "Anything." "You said your daughter disappeared?" He stiffened. "Yes." "Then help find the ones still missing. Kids who don't have foundations, who don't make headlines. Help them." His mouth parted slightly, surprised. "You're not the only one who lost something," she added. He didn't respond right away. Then he stood slowly, buttoning his coat. "You know," he said, "you're the first person to ask me for something real." She gave him a tired smile. "I don't need real estate, just real help." As he walked away, she had no idea that her words would become a spark and later, a movement. The Brooks Initiative launched 2 weeks later, a partnership between the Lark Foundation and local communities in New Orleans. The mission? Find missing children, especially Black and brown kids who rarely made the news. Create trauma centers for families. Fund safe houses. Teach local youth how to protect each other and report without fear. And Jasmine? She didn't vanish into the limelight like some expected. She returned to work. Same uniform, same shift. But now people came by not for burgers but to talk, to say thanks, to cry, to ask how they could help. Still, not everyone clapped. Some online trolls claimed she was using the race card. Others accused her of manipulating Lark. One viral thread questioned whether she was even really poor or just playing it up for the media. One night, as she cleaned the fryer trays, her coworker Marcus turned and asked, "How do you deal with all the hate?" She shrugged. "Same way I deal with grease burns." "You don't. You just keep working." But the truth was she was hurting. She was 17, and the world had placed its weight on her shoulders. That Friday, her high school held an assembly. She didn't want to go, but her grandma made her. She stood backstage, sweat slicking her palms. The principal, a white woman who rarely remembered Jasmine's name, gave a long speech about heroism and integrity and how our school produces leaders. Jasmine wondered if this was the same woman who once suspended her for missing a quiz after taking her grandma to the hospital. Then her name was called. Applause erupted. She walked out, squinting against the stage lights. The mic was tall, too tall. She adjusted it, and then she looked out over the sea of faces. Some curious, some annoyed, some inspired. Her voice cracked at first, then it found itself. "I'm not a hero," she said. "I just did what anyone should do." Pause. "But I know most people wouldn't." The crowd stilled. "Because he looked dirty. Because he was white. Because I was tired. Because it's easier to walk past than sit down. And maybe some people think I did this to get famous. Or rich. Or special." She looked down at her palms, then back up. "But all I really wanted to do was make sure he didn't die alone." The room held its breath. Turns out, he didn't. And now he's alive. And awake. And maybe trying to do some good, too. That's all I care about. Then she turned the mic off and walked off stage. Simple, unpolished, unforgettable. That night, she went home to an inbox full of college offers and news interviews. She ignored them all. Instead, she sat on the roof with her grandma, sipping tea and watching the city shimmer like a dream too old to chase. "You okay, baby?" her grandma asked. Jasmine nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About what happens when you help someone and the world decides to watch." Her grandma smiled. "Letching watching. But you stay you." Down on the street, a group of kids were gathered under the same street lamp where she'd first met Nathaniel Lark. They were handing out blankets, sandwiches, bottles of water. One of them had her name written on the back of their hoodie. Not in neon, not for profit, but in gratitude. She blinked hard, swallowing the lump in her throat. Maybe, she thought, you don't need a cape to be a hero. Just a heart that refuses to look away. The next week came like a tidal wave. Every morning, Jasmine woke up to something new. Emails from strangers. Teachers treating her differently. Even classmates who'd never spoken to her now waved in the hall. Some were sincere. Some were watching her like she was a reality show they couldn't turn off. She hated both. And then came the invitation. A gold-embossed envelope slid under her door one morning. Her grandma found it before she did. "What's this, sugar?" she asked, handing it over with trembling fingers. Jasmine opened it slowly. "The Lark Foundation cordially invites you to the inaugural Children's Justice Gala. Saturday, 7 p.m. at the Roosevelt Hotel. Dress formal. Speech optional. Attendance not." She sighed. "They want me to be a symbol." "You are a symbol, baby," her grandma said softly. "But you get to decide what you symbolize." That night, she stared at herself in the mirror wearing a thrift store gown her grandma had tailored by hand. It was black, elegant, but simple. Jasmine had never worn anything so delicate. She felt like she might tear it just by breathing. "You ready?" her grandma asked from the doorway, smiling proudly. "No," Jasmine whispered, "but I'm going anyway." The Roosevelt was another world. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, white people in tuxedos laughing over wine. And then her brown skin, quiet eyes, the scent of fryer oil still clinging to her pores no matter how much she scrubbed. Nathaniel met her at the entrance. He was clean-shaven again, regal in a way that wasn't just about money. "You look powerful," he said. "I feel like I snuck into someone else's life." He smiled. "You built this life, Jasmine. This whole damn room is here because of you." Cameras flashed as they walked in. A string quartet played softly. But Jasmine noticed what others didn't. The caterer, a black woman in her 50s with tired feet and kind eyes. The janitor sweeping up glitter by the back wall. The busboy staring at the shrimp tray like it was gold. She waved at him. He looked confused, then smiled back. During dinner, speeches began. Politicians, activists, celebrities. Everyone had something to say about children, justice, and hope. Jasmine sat still, polite, but growing colder with each passing minute. Finally, Nathaniel took the stage. He spoke about his daughter, about his guilt, about the night Jasmine found him. And then he said, "But this night isn't about my redemption. It's about Jasmine's clarity, her courage, her reminder that humanity isn't about money or fame, it's about choosing to care when it's hardest." He looked down at her. "Jasmine, would you like to say something?" All eyes turned to her. She hadn't prepared a speech, but she rose anyway. The mic was cold in her hands. "I'm not here because I'm perfect," she began. "I'm here because I was raised to see people, even when the world tells me not to." Pause. "I didn't help Mr. Lark because I knew who he was. I helped him because he was crying, shaking, and no one else stopped." She scanned the room. "You all have money, influence, power. But do you have time? Compassion? Do you see the people who clean your tables, serve your food, change your sheets. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Because I do, and they matter just as much as you. Another pause. Someone in the back clapped once, then others joined. Jasmine stepped away from the mic. Nathaniel met her halfway down the steps. You cut through the noise again, he whispered. I didn't come here to play nice. I know. That's why it worked. The gala raised over $12 million by midnight. And by Sunday, the city was buzzing again, not just about Jasmine's speech, but about what she said afterward in a backstage interview that went viral. I'm not here to entertain rich people. I'm here to remind them their money doesn't matter if they don't use it right. Some loved her bluntness. Others called her ungrateful. But she didn't care, because now her inbox was filled with real things. Mothers asking for help finding missing kids. Youth organizers from across the country asking her to speak. Letters from girls who looked like her and had never seen someone like themselves on the news for something good. And then came a message that stopped her cold. Private DM, username, lost her 23. You helped my father when no one else did. He used to cry every night. I ran away because I felt like a ghost in our house. I watched everything from far away. I'm not ready to come back yet. But thank you for helping him start breathing again. Jasmine stared at the message for a long time. The username wasn't verified. There was no profile picture, no trace of who sent it. But deep down, she felt it was real. She never showed Nathaniel. Some truths, she thought, aren't meant to be forced. They bloom on their own. In the weeks that followed, the Brooks Initiative expanded. What started in New Orleans spread to Baton Rouge, Mobile, and Memphis. Mobile clinics, missing persons task forces, free trauma therapy, all funded by donors rich and poor who were moved by one girl and one decision on a cold night. Jasmine turned 18, surrounded by community organizers and friends she never thought she'd have. She had offers to go to Dillard, Xavier, even NYU. But she stayed in New Orleans for now. I'll go, she told her grandma one night. But not yet. I have more to do here. You already done so much, her grandma replied softly. Not enough. Not yet. One late summer evening, Jasmine returned to the bench on Canal Street, the same one where she'd met Nathaniel. She sat down, a cup of hot coffee in her hands. Not cold this time. A girl around her age sat crying on the curb nearby. Dirty clothes, frizzy hair, fear in her eyes. Jasmine approached slowly. Hey, you okay? The girl looked up, flinched. Don't worry, Jasmine said, sitting beside her. I'm nobody. The girl blinked, then smiled. Me too. They sat in silence, the city humming around them. And somewhere in a downtown penthouse, Nathaniel Lark looked out his window at the night sky, holding an old photo in his hand, a little girl with fire-red hair and stormy eyes, and whispered, Thank you, Jasmine Brooks. He didn't need to say it out loud. The world already knew. Autumn swept into New Orleans with a kind of slow, grace-humid days turning crisp, the scent of wet leaves clinging to sidewalks, and the jazz in the French Quarter sounding just a little more soulful. But for Jasmine Brooks, the rhythm of change wasn't just in the air, it was pounding in her chest. Her name was now associated with something bigger than a news story. A name whispered by mothers who'd lost children, by community leaders fighting to be heard, and by kids who finally believed someone like them could matter. But the pressure of being a symbol, it was suffocating. People expected her to have answers, to lead protests, to speak on TV, to fix things that generations of injustice had left broken. And she was just Jasmine, a girl who used to mop greasy floors and hand out coal fries with a tired smile. One evening, she sat in the back of a church on Elysian Fields Avenue. It was quiet, cool, lit only by flickering candles and the soft murmur of prayer. She didn't pray, not really, but she sat there often, thinking, listening. The door creaked behind her. A familiar voice whispered, You hiding or healing? She turned. Nathaniel Lark stood there, hands in his coat pockets, tie slightly crooked. He looked more like a man now and less like a legend. A man who'd come through something and didn't pretend otherwise. Maybe both, Jasmine said. He sat beside her. You've done more in 6 months than I did in 60 years. I didn't want to be known, she said. I just wanted to do the right thing. He nodded slowly. You did. But now the world's watching, and it doesn't blink. Silence settled again, warm and comfortable. He reached into his coat and handed her an envelope. Not money, not a letter, a photo. It was a grainy image someone had snapped it from a distance. A young girl standing outside a shelter in Baton Rouge. Red hair, pale skin, holding a small backpack and staring straight at the camera, expression unreadable. Jasmine's heart stuttered. She's... Nathaniel nodded. The shelter director sent it to me anonymously. Said she didn't give a name. But I know. You going to her? No, he said quietly. Not yet. If it's really her, she ran for a reason. I won't chase her. I'll wait. Jasmine held the photo like it was made of glass. She sent me a message once, she whispered. Didn't say her name, but I knew. Nathaniel looked over. What did she say? That I helped you breathe again. He closed his eyes. For a long time, he didn't speak. Then, you helped me live again, Jasmine. Not just breathe. Live. She gave the photo back. Keep it. It's not my story. No, he said, looking at her. But you're the reason it has a chance at a new chapter. As winter approached, Jasmine's life began to change shape again. She declined more interviews. She said no to speaking tours and media circuits. Not because she didn't care, but because she wanted to build instead of just talk. With Nathaniel's silent support, she started a community center in the Ninth Ward. Not some polished nonprofit front, but a real place. Graffiti on the walls. Free food on the weekends. A library of donated books. And a door always open to whoever needed it. They called it the bench. Because sometimes all someone needed was a place to sit and someone willing to sit with them. Kids came after school for tutoring. Teens came late at night when they were scared to go home. Even adults dropped by just to talk. And Jasmine was always there, sweeping, serving, listening. Word spread. Other cities asked for help replicating the model. And Jasmine said the same thing every time. You don't need my name, just the will to see people. On her 19th birthday, she got a small package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a charm bracelet. One tiny silver bench dangling from the chain. No note. No explanation. But Jasmine knew who it was from. Some nights, she still worked the late shift at the diner. Not because she needed the money, but because she needed the reminder. The smell of grease. The heat of the fryers. The worn-out faces of people who had too much to carry and too little to show for it. It kept her grounded. It kept her real. One particularly stormy night, lightning split the sky over the city. Power flickered. Roads flooded. And still, Jasmine walked the 10 blocks to the bench, umbrella in hand. When she arrived, a young man was waiting under the awning. Soaked, shivering, eyes bloodshot. She unlocked the door without saying a word. He didn't speak either, just walked inside and sat heavily in the corner. Jasmine brewed some tea, handed it to him, and pulled up a chair nearby. Minutes passed. Finally, he said, "You don't know me." She smiled faintly. "That's never stopped me before." He looked at her, really looked. Then his voice cracked. "I don't want to be invisible anymore." Her reply was soft but steady. "Then you're in the right place." Outside, thunder rolled like a heartbeat. Inside, a small lamp glowed against the storm. Years passed. Jasmine eventually did leave New Orleans for a time. Studied community law at Howard. Interned with civil rights lawyers. Spoke at the UN once. Not because she chased the spotlight, but because the fight kept calling her name. But no matter how far she went, she always came back. To the bench, to the streets where she learned how to see, to the place where kindness became revolution. By her 30th birthday, the bench had 30 centers across the South, funded not by billionaires or politicians, but by the people who knew what it meant to go unseen. She never forgot where it started. One tired girl, one cold night, one man with a broken heart and a past too heavy to carry, and one act of humanity that changed everything. In an interview much later in her life, a young journalist asked her, "If you could go back to that night, would you still stop? Would you still sit with him?" Jasmine didn't hesitate. "I didn't save him," she said. "We saved each other." And she meant every word. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.